Uh, Today we have something to like some new topics. They're not very difficult. That's why I want us to look at some practice problems. That was also homeworks. I last time I picked the practice menu here and then I sorted by easiest, and yeah, I chose language Python. So I sent you this link, the easiest problems, and I told you to do at least 10 of them, at least try to do 10 of them. Like, doesn't matter you do from last or the first one, you just do 10 of them. Did any of you uh, completed any of these tasks, or you have any questions? We can look at them one by one if you want. Okay, I don't know what's the answer, so let's look. Up and down the string grows. What is this? This has very long description. Let's train. Provide functionality of converting some case, for example. This is a strange question. Let's look at the second question. Just we haven't learned lists yet. Just let's look at. Given an Euclidean plane, return the quadrant of the point exists 1, 2, 3, or 4. Just therefore given the point never lies on the axis. Okay, we can look at this question. This is a bit easier. I don't know if you have looked at it before. The question name is quadrants. Given a point in Euclidean plane, return quadrant the point exists in. So you know what quadrant is from math is 1, 2, 3, 4. So they'll give us a point. It means and they will give us x and y. We should return 1, 2, 3, or 4, just any of them, depending on where this point exists. So how would you check it? You can actually try this this problem. Its name is quadrants. If you don't want to try, we can do it together. So they have given us a function. Function receives two parameters, x and y. We should return a number, which is 1, 2, 3, or 4. How would you solve it? Yes. Yes. So if Let's start from the first quadrant. In first quadrant, they are like both positive. X is greater than 0, it means positive, and y is greater than 0. What we will return? We will return 1. Else if x is greater than, no, x is less than 0, but y is greater than 0. This means second quadrant. Another elif, both of them are negative. Actually, we have only one case. We can write elif, but we don't have to. Like if x is positive and y is negative, then return 4. This should do it. So where is the train bot? Yeah, we can test it. It passes all basic 7 test cases. We can attempt it. Yeah, it should return all of the results. So they have like 207 cases, all of them pass. You can write this one if you want. I can wait for you. The question is called quadrant. You can find from this list where we have easiest problems, Python problems. Did you see how I got to this window? Click just practice up here. Choose easiest problems here, and then choose Python as programming language. And then you will have the same list as mine. Then go to the task salam. Then go to its third task. It's called quadrants salam. Just one more thing about return statement. Return statement is similar to you remember break statement, right? Break when stops the loop. So return statement stops the function. It means if I write return here, the rest of the code will not be executed. So we can take advantage of this. So we don't have to even write this elif, elif, elif. We can write it like this. For the last case, because we checked first case, second case, third case, we don't have to check the last case because like if any of this didn't match, it means it's fourth quadrant. And if this case matches and we return 1, this means that the rest of the code will not be executed. It's how a return statement works. So I think writing this way is much cleaner and readable. We can test it again, it should work. Yes. So you can also write it like this. Take your time, just 2-3 minutes to write, if you haven't. Let's move to the next question.
Can we look at the answers of the other people?
Yeah, of course. Just go in the below, we have discussion section. We have discussion here. You can go to discussion, and we also have solutions here. You can go to solutions. There are some weird stuff that people do. Our solution is more readable, I think. This is basically, it's called lambda function in Python. It's just shorter syntax to write a function. And I think it's very ugly. It's really, really ugly. I don't understand anything from this. This guy did this a little bit differently. If it checks if x is greater than 0, and if if x is greater than 0, y is also greater than 0. If we are in the first quadrant, else we are in the fourth quadrant. He does the same thing but in different way. You can also try this.
Is it for its syntax after else without
Without tab, I think, yeah, it works. It works on the same line. But if you want to do this, you can't write a lot of statements on the same line. Just one return statement should do it, or one just one statement. Okay, if you want to write a lot of statement, you have to move to the new line, and then you should write with tab. Okay, if it is just one statement, then it's okay. Okay, he also checks if x and y equal to 0 and returns x and y must be non-zero integers, but I don't think that this problem requires to check it. He did it for some reason, but I don't know. We didn't even check if x and y is equals to 0. But all other cases are same as ours. This is another weird way to do this. If any of you understand it, please tell me. Yeah, it's weird, really weird. It's y is less than 0 multiplied by 2. I don't know. This is also same as ours. Same as ours. Quadrant. Yeah, most of them are similar. Some of them are weird. Also, sometimes people, if you can't solve it, this is a dictionary. We will talk about dictionaries today after we do some exercise. This is also one way of doing it, but I personally always prefer the readable way. Just if the person looks at your code, he should be able to understand it. It's hard to understand if you don't know Python really good. Okay, let's move to the next question if you don't have any questions. We have a problem called bite me. I don't know what it is, but let's look at it. If I were to ask you a size of hello, what would you say? Size of hello is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because hello has 5 characters. Let me rephrase the question. If I were to ask you the total byte size of hello, how many bytes do you think it takes up? Byte size, it takes 54. Let's see why. Here's why. Every string has to have an encoding like ASCII, you know about ASCII. The info that makes it an object, as well as all of its other properties. It would have to take up a bit more than 5 bytes, wouldn't it? This might be useful for sending something over network where you need to represent the memory size item takes up. So task is you need to return the number of bytes a given object takes up. For example, this sets, this is 76 bytes. Oh my God. Okay, numbers don't have as much info in them. Okay, let's just try to do it. It's probably we can do it with 1 or 2 lines using Python's built-in stuff. Let's just try. I will click train. They will give us an object. This object can be a string. It can be, I don't know, anything. It can be anything. It can be number, string, I don't know, Boolean, anything. We just return the number of bytes it takes. Just to be familiar, Python has a data type called bytes. Okay, you can convert a string into bytes. You can convert anything into bytes, as far as I know, because anything actually is just bytes, right? String is bytes. Can we convert number into bytes? Bytes, yeah. Let's try doing. Yeah. let's call this byte array, and let me just zoom it a little bit. I will convert this object into bytes, and will return size of byte array. We will talk about arrays. Array is just sequence of some stuff. For example, string is array of characters. I don't know if it will work or not. Hopefully it will. They have some test cases here, but let's test. We can also look at unexpected exception raised, string argument without an encoding. Yes. String argument without encoding. Okay, let's we can also do it like this. If type object is str, it means the object is string. Byte array will be bytes object. Also, we need to give encoding, else we don't need encoding, I think. I don't know what I'm doing, just I'm trying. Okay. Let's also try test it. We also have string arguments without an encoding. Type of object is str. Is instance. Maybe I can also check. We have more errors. Good. Testing for hello 5 should equal to 54. We have a lot of wrong answers. Object cannot be interpreted as an integer. Okay, maybe we should look at solutions. Do we have discussion? We have solutions, unlock solutions. This is get size of object, get size of. They have built-in function called get size of. Let's see if anyone did differently. Total bytes. Okay. Get size. So everyone did the same thing. Hey, we can actually skip this because they did it easy way. Import sys get size of my char. We can do the same, but I think there's no point. Just you need to know Python really good to just to write this. I didn't know this get size of function existed, so I couldn't do this. Let's move to the different question. Floating point comparison, gravity leap. I want to find problems that will require, no, we haven't checked, check same case. We'll check two given characters are same case. Okay, let's do this. So go to the problem called the check same case. So it asks, it will give us two strings, A and B. So if either of the characters is not a letter, we should return -1. If both characters are the same case, it means both of them are uppercase or both of them are lowercase, we should return 1. If both characters are letters but not same case, we should return 0. You don't have to we can Python has built-in functions that we can check if is character or number or it is uppercase or lowercase. We can look at Python string methods. Is lower, for example, Python has function called is lower. It's also is upper. It will return true or false depending on the string is lower or upper. Okay. And the how you use it is like this. For example, I have a string. I will call dot is lower. It will return me true or false if this is all lowercase or all uppercase. Okay. Also, what they asked us to check if either of the characters is not a letter. There should be a function called isLetter. isLetter. Is decimals return true if all characters are decimals? All characters string are digits. Is numeric, is title, returns to is upper, is lower, else 3 partition, is let's check if they have letter, is letter. Looks like they don't have is letter function. We will do something else. Is alpha returns true, okay, and there is a function called is alpha. It will return true if all characters are in the alphabet. Let's see how it works actually. Company 10 should return false, right? Because we have 10, it's not letter. Okay, we know what functions we can use. Like we have is upper, is lower, and is alpha. Can use these functions. So if either of the characters is not a letter, we should return -1. We will check if A is not alpha and B is not alpha, actually, or because it says either of the characters, not both of the characters. If any of them are not letters, we should return -1. How we can do this? And we can use not operator here. Not is alpha. Okay. If A is not alphanumeric, it means not letters, or B is not alphanumeric, not alpha. Okay. If A is not letters or B is not letters, we should return -1. Okay. Let's try. If both characters are same case, we should return -1. Actually, no, 1. If both characters are the same case. If A is lower and B is lower, we will return 1. We can also do A is upper and B is upper. We will return 1. Is upper or upper? What was the function? Is upper, like is lower, is upper. Is upper, is lower. If both characters are letters but not the same case, we should return -1. Because we already checked same case, also we already checked not characters, we can return -1 because the only remaining case here is -1. Let's check if this will work. We have some. -1 should be equal to 0. I returned -1, but yeah, I should. Because they said, yeah, we should return 0 on the other case. The last case is 0. We return -1 if they are not letters. We return 1 if they are same case. We return 0 if else. I mean, if none of those cases match. Okay, 8 test cases pass. We can also attempt to see all of them pass. All of them passes. You try writing this one. Also, let me know if you have any questions. It's called, I think, check same case. Yes. Let me see. Or we could also do it like this, but it's less readable. It's hard for eyes to just read what happens. Actually, we can do something more readable. For example, both are lower. Okay, you can also both are upper. We can also write both are lower or both are upper, return 1. It's also readable because it reads like English. You see why naming variables are important, right? When people read your code, they should read it like English. If both are lower or both are upper, return 1. You can also create new variables for them, for this ones. Yeah, it depends how you want to write. There is a quote that says it's easier to write code for computers because computers will understand, execute everything, but it's hard to write a code for humans to read. Do you have any questions? Let's move to another question. I think this should do it. Quarter of the year. There is a problem called quarter of the year. Given a month as an integer from 1 to 12, return which quarter of the year it belongs as an integer number. For example, month 2, February, is part of first quarter, June is part of second quarter, and 11 is the part of fourth quarter, and so on. Again, let's just do this. You can, I think, do this because it's similar to the first problem we solved. Go to quarter of the year and try to solve it. In a very basic case, like in a very basic code, this is how would we write it. But maybe there is a way that you can write it with maybe less line of code. Just write this one after think of another way of doing this problem, solving this problem. It's most basic, naive way of solving it. We just check the range and return numbers. So we can write like number of quarters. We have 4 quarters. So the result is months divided by number of quarters plus 1. I hope it will work, but let's check. Maybe there are some edge cases that. Oh, we need integer division. Okay, because we didn't divide integer, it gave us 0.75. So let's test again. We also have another. So 11th months gave us 3, but it should be 4. What's the 11th? So 11 we divided by 4. It gave us 2. Remainder 3. Maybe the what should be the result? Result should be 4. Well, what's the problem here? We shouldn't add 1. It means we shouldn't add 1. What should we add here to get the else? Yes, just we want to do it without using if else. What if we get reminder? If I divided 8, this is 3, and we should add 1 to it. Should get, and let's check 12. If I it will also give me 0, and if I add 1, I will get the wrong result. Let's say 6. If I divide 6 by 4, I will get 2. Right? Here 2 is the remainder if I add 2. So I think that there should be some general formula. Maybe we should integer divide and then add the remainder, not 1. If I should be 2, the remainder is 3. It doesn't make sense to add numbers. Maybe let's look how other people did. I'm sure someone did it in this way. Yeah, they used sale, months divided by 3, n plus 2 divided by 3, months plus 2 divided by 3, not if else, months minus 1 divided by 3. Can you guess why they add 2 to it? Maybe. This is some weird way of doing it. As from sale. I think this makes more sense. Let's go to quarter of the year. Let's try again. Quarter of month. Okay, so we will talk about this imports, okay, but right now import is just if you want to use some other code that it's not written in your file, you just want to import that code and use it. Okay, so there are some functions. For example, let's try in our, for example, this mass file has some mathematical code inside, mathematical functions. Let's try some stuff here. Mass.floor. So we have floor function. Floor function takes an decimal, this floating point number, and like downsizes it, cuts this integer part and floors it. Just it will give us 3 when we floor. There's also a function called ceil. Ceil will do the same but to the up. Okay, it will give us 4. Ceil will give us 4. Doesn't matter. It's not rounding in mathematics. For example, even if I give 3.1, it will give me 4 because ceil will always go to the ceil and floor will always go to the floor. For example, if I have 3.9, if I floor it, it will always give me 3. So they do here, I think, divided by 3. Divided by 3 and ceil it. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. Well, let's try. For example, if I have 12, they divided by 3, it gives me 3, right?
Yeah.
3, and ceiling it will give me 4. Yeah, it gives the correct result here. If I have 6, gives me 2. Yeah, it's just the correct result. So I think the formula is just divide by 3 and ceil it. And it passes all cases. Yeah, sometimes it's good to look at solutions. Not this one. We haven't covered total amount of points. Not this one. Pillars. Maybe let's do this. Have I done this before? There are pillars near the road. Okay. Let's do this one. Then also have a little bit break. Then continue. Okay. This question is called pillars. Pillars is same and the width of the pillars is the same. Your function accepts 3 arguments: number of pillars, distance between pillars, width of the pillars. Calculate distance between the first and last pillar in centimeters. That width of any first and last pillar. So let's actually draw this. So they say we have some pillars. Near the road. So they give us a number of pillars. For example, we have 2 pillars, let's say. We have 2 pillars. Maybe we have 3 pillars, okay. And they give us distance between pillars. For example, let's say they give that distance is 20 meters. Distance between pillars is 20 meters. But this is 20, this is 20, distance between them. And they give us a width of the pillars. Let's say each of them are, for example, 30, 30, 30. I think in meters, right? 30 centimeters. Distance is 20 meters, but the width are 30 centimeters. Okay, let's draw it like this. Okay. We have three pillars. We have width of the pillars, and we have distance between the pillars. So they ask us calculate distance between first and the last pillar. What's the distance between first and the last pillar? I think they, without the width of the first and last pillars, we just ignore first and ignore last, calculate the distance, this distance and this distance, okay? So it should be in here what the result is. 20 meters plus 20 meters plus 30 centimeters. But in this problem, you should generalize this somehow and return the correct result.
Is not explained, it's just width. So why do we sum alone?
With, yeah, actually, with, I think by with they mean the its length. Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah, maybe it's like that. Maybe I draw it incorrectly, but basically this is the idea. I don't know what pillar means, maybe. Yeah, they should be vertical. Okay, that's one. Now this is correct. Just try to do it, then we will have 5-minute break, then we will have some new topics like lists, but they're not very hard. Okay. So you have function, number of pillars, how many pillars you have, distance between pillars and the width of each pillar. Just take into account that distance is given by meters, but width of the pillar is centimeters. So basically, to calculate distances, what we do, for example, if I have 3 pillars, I have 2 distances, right? That's why I subtract 1 from it and multiply by, for example, distance is 20. I multiply it, for example, I have 2, I'll multiply 20 by 2. Because distances are in meters, I need to convert them in centimeters. That's why I multiply it by 100. And if you want to sum the pillars, we need to subtract first and last pillars. And that's why I subtract 2 from number of pillars and multiply it by width of the pillars. For example, width of the pillar is 30. And then we just return the sum of them. We just add them and return the result. Also, when we have only one pillar, it's just edge case. It means when we have one pillar, the distance should be 0. Is the idea clear why we did it? Okay. Murat? I need to calculate distance between first and last pillar, right? This one, okay? First, let's calculate how much each pillar will take, how much space. So I need to ignore first and last pillars because the problem asks me to without width of the first and last pillars, okay? So to add, I subtract this, I ignore this pillar and I ignore this pillar. In between, I might have many pillars, but I ignore first and last one. That's why I subtract 2, okay? I subtracted 2 from number of pillars. And to find the width of total pillars, I need to multiply it by width because they gave us the width, okay? The width is 30 centimeters, for example. I multiply number of pillars to the width to get total width, okay? And then we have these distances between them. If I have 3 pillars, how many distances between them I will have? 2, right? If I have 4 distances, if I have 4 pillars, I will have 3 distances. So it means number of pillars minus 1. And we multiply it by length of the distance, multiplied by length of the distance to get the sum of all distances. And because they gave us in meters, distances between pillars are given in meters, I multiplied by 100 to get centimeters. Okay, I return the result in centimeters. And there is one edge case where we only have 1 pillar. If we have only 1 pillar, it doesn't make sense to calculate anything. So we return 0. You don't need to think of this case ahead of time. For example, if I test it, what happened? Here, something happened. Okay. For example, what the hell? Okay, let's remove this case. If I test it, you will see that it will give me one of the cases will fail because I returned minus 10. The reason why I returned negative value because number of pillars, for example, 1, for example, number of pillars 1, I subtract 2 from 1, it gives me minus 1 and then multiply it. At last, I get my negative result. They have actually here the test case. For example, they give number of pillars 1, distance between pillars is 10, and each width of each pillar is 10. They expect 0. Okay, that's why I just I just checked this test case so that when the number of pillars is 1, we should return 0. And I just write an if case here. If number of pillars is 1, just return 0. And then we can attempt, and then it will pass all the test cases. Anyone have any questions? Okay, then let's have just 5 minutes break, then continue our new topics. So as today's lectures, we will look at few data structures, data types. So by the way, I didn't talk about comments, but I always write comments, right? But this was mentioned in one of the articles that I have sent you. Basically, if you want to write some notes to your code in Python, you use comments. In Python, single line comments starts with pound sign. Whatever I write after this pound sign is just not for me or for future person who will read my code. It's just sometimes it's good practice to write comments, but not unnecessary comments. You can also write multi-line comments using 3, for example, 1, 2, 3. Okay, 3 quotes and ends with 3 quotes. You can write anything you want here. It will be ignored, so it's just comment. You can write poem here. I don't know. Okay, just one note. So today we will have we will look at some new data types. So we know some data types, right? For example, we know int, we know float, we know str, string, we know what bool, which is true or false. What else we know? We also know, I think, byte. We mentioned something like this. I think bytes or byte. I don't remember. Yeah. Basically, I think this is all that we looked. Today we will look at some data types that can hold collection of items. For example, in this integer, I can only store one integer, right? In this float, I can only store one float. String stores sequence of characters. Boolean is true or false, and so on. But today we will look at some data types that can hold collections. For example, let's say I want to store list of students, so I will do something with them later. So I create a variable called students. I want the students to be list. In Python, if you want to create a list, you will have to use this brackets. Inside this brackets, let me print the type of it. Type students. Lesson 2, not lesson 2, lesson 3. Okay. You know, the type of this is a list. So we can store number of, like a lot of items inside this list. For example, let me store some strings inside this list. So, Murat, what was your name? Canan, Maksud. Okay, so we have a list of our students here. This is still a list, but it has 4 items inside the list. Okay, if I want to access the items inside the list, I will use this bracket syntax, and I can access the items by their index. So we have elements here. This is one element, this is another element, this is another element, and make sure that you separate them with commas. And index of them always starts with 0, okay? This is zeros element, first element, second element, third element. But length of the array is 4. So zeros element is Murat. Yeah. For example, third element is Rasul. What is fourth element? It's error because it's indexed out of range. Because we don't have fourth element. We have 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay. We can also, there is also one method called slicing. We can also get the part of the array. For example, I can start from the 2. Okay. Okay, let's start from first. Okay, 0 first. I want to take only Canan and Maksud. I will write a colon here. Colon. It means I can get a, for example, 0, 1, 2, 3. If I write it like this, from 1 to 3, 1 is included, by 3 is not included. So we have Canan and Maksud. It means take 1, 2, but don't take 3. I can write 4 here, so I will take Canan, Maksud, and Rasul. This is called slicing. So what? 1,2, I think no, it should give me error, or it will not give me error, it will just give me the result. But I think no, it will give me a list indices must be integers or slice, not tuple. Okay. Okay. This is another, this is just a list, and we store some elements inside the list, and we can access them by their indexes. We can also append, like we can add and remove some elements from the list. For example, I can add students.append. Append will add a new element to the end of the list. Okay. For example, I can call another, for example, who again, Balali. Balali will come to the end of the list. If I print the list, So we have Murat, Kenan, Maksud, Rasul, and at last Balayali because it came last. We also have, we can also add to the beginning. Where was this method? Append. For example, let's call which one? Let's call insert. Insert takes two arguments, which is index and object, whatever you are going to insert. For example, I want to insert a new student between Murad and Kenan. So 0 first. I will insert into first index. Okay, another one is coming into first index. So we will have Murad, Rashad, Kenan, Maksud, Rasul, and also Balayli. Murad, Rashad, Kenan, Maksud, Rasul, Balayli. We can also remove some elements from the list. For example, students.remove. I can, let's not remove Maksud. I can tell the Python that I want to remove Balayli and it will remove it. We don't have Balayli right now, but we added and then removed him. Okay, what else can we do? Let's see. We also have pop method. Pop will remove the last element. Okay. Well, what's the last element here? Rasul, because I removed Balayli. Last element here, Rasul. So Rasul will be removed. Okay. We have Maksud, Murad, Rashad, Kenan, Maksud. Okay. Questions? No. Okay. The other type of collection in Python is called a tuple. I don't know how to pronounce it, tuple or tuple. It's written like this, tuple. Basically, tuples are the same as lists, but instead of curly brackets, we write brackets, just regular brackets. It's called tuple. If I print type of tuple, you'll see that it's a tuple. The only difference between a list and tuple that they are almost the same, but you can change the list. For example, I can add element, I can remove element from the list, but tuples are immutable. It means you cannot change them. For example, let me append, you see there's no append method here, and even editor doesn't help me. For example, I can write Bala Ali. You will see that Python will give me error that it doesn't have a method called append. You cannot change it. For example, let's try and change Murad to, I don't know, some other student. I want to change Murad, which is in zeros index. And so tuple is immutable. It says that assignment is not supported. So we cannot reassign these items. Okay. So lists and tuples are almost the same. Tuples are immutable. They cannot be changed. And yeah, that's it. Any questions? No? And the third type of collection is called a set. And if you want to create a set, you have to use curly brackets like this. Set is same as list, but set can only have unique elements. You cannot have repeated elements inside the set. You see the type is set. Let me try to add another item inside set. For example, let's add Murad again. Okay. Let me print the list again. So you see, we have Rasul, Kenan, Murad, Maksud, but I tried to add another Murad here. Set didn't add it because we already have Murad in the list. So set is same as list, almost same, but we have different methods. We have add, remove, but yeah, set only allows unique elements. We cannot have repeated elements inside set.
Why did the elements change their places?
Yeah, because sets are not ordered. I don't know if you have ordered sets. We should. I don't know. I think we have. I'm not exactly sure. But basically, this is called unordered set. Okay. If you look at, for example, C++, let's say, for example, in C++, they explicitly call it unordered set. In Python, they don't call it. It's just unordered by default. Order might change a lot. Like you don't rely on the order of the items. Okay, and with this list, so we have list, we have tuple, we have set. All of them store a collection of items. You don't have to store strings. You can store like I don't know, integer, float, another string. I don't know, boolean. You can have none. By the way, none is just nothing. Okay, if you don't have a value, it means it's none. So you can store anything inside set, list, or tuple. You don't. All of them doesn't have to be in the same type. They can have different types. For example, this is integer, this is float. They can be in the same collection. It doesn't matter. It's list, tuple, or set. Yeah, the only difference is that tuples are immutable, sets only store unique elements, and that's it. If you want to learn the lengths of this collection, doesn't matter it's list, tuple, or set. If you want to learn the lengths, you will call the function which is called len. Okay, it will give me a number of items inside the set. So this is 5. And let's convert it to a list. Okay, it's still 5. I can also make it a tuple. So it's still 5. So len function works with a lot of things. I don't know, it can also be a string. Len function also works with string because string is also a collection. It's a collection of characters. But programming language just don't show us this detail. We have 19 characters inside this string. Okay. So we also have what we have. Sometimes we want to represent some real world objects. For example, a car. How can I represent a car in, for example, in some programming language or in Python? What a car have, for example, car might have a color, for example, might have a, I don't know, license plate, number, I don't know, it might have make, might have model, for example, year, for example. These are some attributes that a car can have. Car is a real world object, and we might want to represent it in our program, because let's say I want to create a car rental system. I will have to represent somehow a car object in my program. So how can I do it? For example, I can use a list. Let's use a list or a tuple, doesn't matter. For example, let's call it Honda, I don't know, inside, I don't know, it's 90, I don't know, this license plate number. We have also color red, we have color Jimin orange, for example. Okay, this is basically, we can represent a car, but this is not very, like a very clear way. If I want to access the, for example, I want to print the model of this car. If I want to print the model of this car, I will have to call like 0, first, third, I don't know, fourth, fifth. Okay. And it's not very clear if I don't see this code here, for example, I only see this part. It's not very clear what property of a car I am printing. For this reason, for representing complex real-world objects, we have what's called dictionary in Python. Dictionary is just key and value pairs. For example, you might have a telephone book. In telephone book, you have name of person and you have his phone number. Okay, it's called kind of a dictionary. You find the name and you find its value. What's value is phone number. In Python, if you want to create a dictionary, you will use this curly braces, okay? But inside this curly braces, we will have key and values. We write key like this. We write colon, and the value will be like key colon value. Key colon value. We might have a lot of key colon value, key colon value, and so on. For example, make Honda model inside license plate number and color year. Okay. And this is called a dictionary. So we have keys, we have a colon here between key and value, we have also values. And between these key and values, we should have commas, okay, between each pair. If I print type of it, we will see that it's a dictionary. Okay, it's a dictionary. It might sound weird depending on how you pronounce it, but it's called dictionary. So I can, if I want to access the keys of this dictionary, I can use it like car, curly brace, and I can use like, for example, make. Inside, not curly brace, just brackets. Okay, car, and then bracket, and then we have this name of the key as string. I will print Honda. I can do the same with any of them. I can also add new properties, for example, car, and then what a car might have, maybe distance traveled, how many distance it traveled. If I print the car, you will have that I have new property here. Okay, distance traveled. Like you don't have to create all the properties beforehand. You can add new properties. You can also delete properties. For example, I remove till keyword is just means delete. I can remove, for example, color. You will see that I don't have color here. I have make, I have model, I have license number, I have year, I have distance traveled, and so on, but I don't have color. I can delete. So it's dynamic. You can add, you can remove, you can change them. For example, let's change the year to, I don't know, 2019. You'll see that they can be changed. If you print the length of this dictionary, you will see it's 5 because we have 5 pairs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 key value pairs. I can also access the keys. For example, let's say I want to access the keys of this dictionary. I can use it like this. Car, the name of the dictionary, dot keys. This is a function. It will give me a list which has only the keys of the list, okay? If I print values, it will give me the list of values, okay? So we can also use for loop, for example. Let's say I want to use for loop, for example, key value in car, print key value. Let's see if this works. Too many values to unpack. What? You can use a for loop with this dictionary, so it will give you the keys, only keys. If you want to print the value, for example, let's call this key, r.key, will give me the all values. So what is key? Key here is this left side and value is the right side. By the way, with lists, you can also do the same. For example, let's say we have students as before. Let's say we have grades. I don't know, someone have 9, someone have 80, someone have 60, someone have 5. Okay, let's say we have some list of grades. How can I access each item here? For example, I can use for index in range 0 till length of the array, right? Length of the list. Print index. Index, what will be the index here? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 till 7. Okay. I want to print this index, for example, like this, grades inside index. I can print the values 90, 80, 60, 95, and so on. Like just the shorter form of this is just use the grades. For example, instead of using range, you can use the grade. It's much shorter version of it. So I have the same result. Can you tell me how can I find sum of all grades? I know how to iterate over the list. I know how to print each list item. I just want to find sum of all these grades. I want to sum them. Yeah, there is a sum function, but let's not use it. Can I do it like this? For example, I have a variable called result. Then what I do, I add result plus equals grade. I add all of them. Then I print the result at the end. So it will give me the sum of all grades, which is 646. If I want to the average grade, for example, let's n is length of grades. I will divide the result by n. Then I will get the average grade, which is 80.75. Yes. Maybe there was a problem related to lists. Up and down, gravity flip. What's the gravity flip here? This is sorting. We don't need this. Wolf in ships closing. Okay, walls have been reintroduced Great Britain. Ship in front of wolf that's about to be eaten. Not total amount of points twice as old. Total amount of points. Our team's match results are recorded randomly. Okay, let's look at this problem. I think this is interesting. So what they have here? So our football team has finished the championship. Our team's match results are recorded in a collection of strings. It means that they will give us a collection of strings. They will give us a list, which they have strings inside the list. Each match is represented by a string in the format is like this, x colon y, where x our team's score and y is opponent's score. For example, 3-1, 2-2, 0-1, it means that, for example, my team scored 0, opponent scored 1, my team scored 2, opponent scored 2, my team scored 0, opponent scored 1. It's just a list of matches happened. Points are awarded for each match as follows. If x is more than y, they have 3 points. 3 points to whom? I don't know. Okay. If x is less than y, we have 0 points. If x is equals to y, we have 1 point. Okay. And we need to write function that takes this collection and returns number of points our team got. And like I need to iterate over the list and calculate the total number of points that my team got. They say if I won, I get 3 points. If I lost, I get 0 points. If I tie, and then I get 1 point. This is our function. So we have games. In each game, we will have such list. But take into account that this is a string, and I want to get 3 and 1 from this string. In Python, there is a function called split. Let's try it. Just okay. For example, if I have 0 and 1, I can split it by column. It will give me, for example, it will give me 0. For example, it gave me a list with 2 values, 3 and 1. Okay. For example, if I have something like this, I will have a list of these values. It will separate them by whatever I provided, and it will give me the result as a list. Okay, in this case, I need what I need here in this case, I need 3. It's my team's score, and the 1 is their team's score. So let's use them like that. X and Y equals to this. X is my team, and Y is their team. So I have 3 and 1. Let's check if I can compare strings. 3 is greater than 1. 3 is less than 1. No. So it's false. Okay. So since we experimented this, it means that we can use it in our solution. Okay. So we have, let's create a variable called total score because we will return it at the end. So we get each game in games. So we need to have X and Y. We need to get the game, which will be, game will be such string divided by column. We will split it. Okay. Then what they say, if X is greater than Y, I will add 3. If it's less, I will add 0. If it's equal, I will add 1. If X is greater than Y, total score will get 3 points. Else if X is less than 1, less than Y, total score will get nothing. Just let's write, but we'll get nothing. Actually, we can write it like this because if x is less than y, it will get nothing. But if is equal to y, then we will get one score. It should be it. I think let's try. As you see, they have some example inputs here. Game and games, unindent does not match whatever. I didn't understand. What's the error here? Indentation error. Unindent does not match any outer indentation level. What happened here? I didn't understand. For game in games, we have Python 3. We have 0. Let me refresh the page. Maybe something went wrong. What happened here? Do you see any error here? I don't see. Line 4. Line 4 is game in games. Let's just... Ha, onda 0 əlavə eləmək lazım idi. 0 əlavə eləmədim də. Something is really wrong here. I don't know what. We are using Python 3. It is x and y is game not split. What if we don't? Something wrong with this function.
What do you mean by writing for game?
What did I mean by writing grade in grades?
For game.
Let's... What is grade in grades? This grade variable will change in each iteration. It will be 90 and 80, then 60, then 95 and 85, 77. So this for loop I use to iterate over the list. I get each variable, I do something with them. This doesn't have to be named grade. It can be something like this, as long as you follow the rules of Python naming conventions. But for just readability, I name it grade, because each item in grades array is a grade. I don't know what's wrong with this platform, but yeah. Baxma olar prosta ki, niyə? Total score. Nasıl silmişəm axı? Yo, indentation error'da deyir ki, tabu qoymamışsın. Amma mən də hər şeyi silmişəm axı. Okay, I think now it works. Okay, so it works. I didn't know what was the error, but it works. Okay, it's the same. We split them. We get x and y. If x is greater than y, we add 3. If they are equal, we add 1. At last, we get the total score that our team get. So at home, please try to do something more from this list. just it's not problem if you look at the solutions. It's totally fine if you can't solve it. Just look at the solutions how other people did. Since we know lists, dictionaries, functions, we know a lot of topics, we need to practice them. So at home, just go to this list, select easiest, and then select Python as programming language. Just to remember, you need to go to this practice tab and then select this easiest problems. Just go over them and try to solve as much as you can. Maybe just look at the solution and write it by hand, then try to understand it. But at least do something just to write some code. That's it. We can finish the lecture if you don't have any question.